Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be checking out a video that talks about Sweden's economic system. If you've been following me for a while now, you realize that I've been diving into videos that talk about realities of socialism in the Scandinavian countries. And we've checked out Denmark and Poland. Today we'll be checking out Sweden. Let's check out this video, guys, and see what we can learn. Realities of socialism in Sweden.
Hello and welcome. I'm Mary O'Grady, America's columnist with the Wall Street Journal. In this video, we explore the Scandinavian country of Sweden. Many advocates of socialism point to it as a model for their ideas. But this understanding of Sweden's economic system is off track. As we'll discover, Sweden has a long history of limited government and reliance on markets. Let's first look at a bit of the economic history of Sweden with internationally recognized scholar and lecturer Johan Norberg.
Influential Swedish thinkers going back before Adam Smith supported limited government, open markets and trade, secure property rights and general economic freedom, and greatly influenced the development of Sweden's economy. Consider that in 1870, Sweden's total government spending as a share of the economy was only 6%. That was less than the average for OECD countries, which includes most of the world's wealthy industrialized countries, and it was even less than the United Kingdom's spending. Even by 1970, after substantial increases in government spending by most Western countries, Sweden still had a relatively limited government. Spending as a share of the economy, for instance, was 29.5%, less than the average for the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. This approach to the economy, which relied on limited government and open markets, led to one of the fastest growth rates in the world, and what Swedes still refer to as the 100 years of prosperity. In 1870, Sweden's per-person GDP in US dollars, the broadest measure of living standards, was $2,144 per Swede, compared to a world average of $1,498. Sweden enjoyed a living standard about 43% higher than the global average at that time. By 1970, Sweden's per-person GDP was more than 3 times greater than the global average and higher than most Western countries. Of course, a country's standard of living is more than just income, so consider life expectancy. Sweden's life expectancy increased from 45 years in 1870 to 74.7 years in 1970. Considerably above the global average of around 56 years of age in 1970. Infant mortality in Sweden plummeted from 22.1% in 1870 to just 1.3% in 1970. And maternal mortality dropped from 648 per 1,000 live births in 1870 to just 10 in 1970.
Wow.
So, in effect, Sweden had solved most traditional social problems before it became a generous welfare state.
For over 100 years, Sweden's approach to economic policy delivered prosperity, but this began to change in the 1960s.
That's correct. As a share of the economy, for instance, government spending soared from roughly 30% of the economy in the mid-1960s, which was in line with or even less than many other industrialized countries, to nearly 64% by the early 1990s. Sweden's politicians, bureaucrats and special interests planned and even directly controlled larger and larger share of the economy, rather than entrepreneurs, investors, business owners and workers. This surge in government spending, used to finance new social programs and the expansion of existing programs, resulted in large deficits and mounting debt, meaning Sweden was borrowing against the future to finance current spending.
The surge in government spending and the state's greater control over the economy didn't come without costs. Over time, Sweden struggled more and more. By the 1990s, it was in an economic crisis.
Wow.
Yes, Sweden was suffering from spiraling deficits, mounting inflation, double-digit interest rates, and devaluation of the country's currency. And companies like IKEA started leaving Sweden. This crisis led to major reforms and a reduction in government spending. As a share of the economy, government spending fell from a high of almost 64% in 1993 to a little over 47% by 2019. The reductions in government spending led to balanced budgets and declining government debt as a share of the economy. Simply put, Sweden got its fiscal house in order. Sweden also
Wow.
focused on getting more internationally competitive, particularly with respect to business taxes. The idea behind reducing business taxes was to attract investment and encourage entrepreneurship. Sweden's statutory business tax rate was cut from 28% to a little under 21% by 2022.
Wow.
A different
Wow. I'm impressed by the fact that Sweden was able to balance its budget and reduce its government's debt. This is a great example of how fiscal responsibility can lead to economic growth and stability. Wow. And they made themselves so attractive to entrepreneurs and investors by cutting its statutory business tax rate from 28% to 21%, which is a key factor in driving economic growth. This is so impressive. Wow.
way to think about and assess Sweden's economy is the Fraser Institute's Global Measurement of Economic Freedom.
The Institute's Economic Freedom of the World project assesses the degree to which individuals, rather than government officials, make economic decisions. It measures this freedom across a range of activities, including the right to hold and acquire property, the ability to start and operate a business, the ability to trade, the government's promise to maintain the value of money, and the size of government in terms of both spending and taxing. Data for 2021, which is the latest year for which we have good data, shows Sweden was considered a mostly free country, ranking 17th out of 165 countries worldwide. But a more nuanced story emerges when we examine the 5 subcomponents of economic freedom. Due to its high taxes and spending, Sweden scores poorly on one of them, the size of government, ranking almost last at 159 out of 165 countries. But when it comes to the other areas of economic freedom, Sweden is among the freest countries in the world.
There are two other important aspects of Sweden's current economic system that need to be better understood. Both are often mischaracterized by those in Western countries who advocate for a Scandinavian model.
Yes, it's important to recognize that while Sweden balanced its budget, government spending was still high compared to most other Western countries, and that spending has to be financed some way. But contrary to popular perception, Sweden's high tax burden is widely shared amongst average Swedes. It's not about taking from the rich and giving to the poor. So Sweden's sales tax, for instance, is the second highest in the industrialized world at 25%, and is one of 2 main sources used to finance higher government spending in Sweden. The other tax used to finance higher spending is the personal income tax. But unlike countries like Canada, the United States, Australia and the United Kingdom, where personal income tax rates are steeply progressive, Sweden's high personal income taxes are largely levied on the middle class. Sweden's high top personal income tax rate, for instance, kicks in at fairly low levels of income. This means that many ordinary Swedes pay the top tax rate of a little over 52%.
Wow.
So for context, let's look at the US dollar equivalent of where the top personal income tax rate starts for different countries. Sweden's kicks in at about 62,000 US dollars, while in Australia, the next lowest, it starts at about 120,000 US dollars. And in the US, it is over $500,000. And Sweden's top personal income tax rate of 52.3% is high compared to other industrialized countries. The Swedish model for financing their much higher level of government spending is straightforward. Average Swedes pay one of the highest sales taxes in the industrial world, while many also pay the top personal income tax rate. This means that average Swedes largely pay for higher government spending.
The second area of Swedish policy that is often overlooked is the degree to which Sweden relies on an innovative private sector to deliver social services.
Really?
While the Swedish government, and more specifically, Swedish taxpayers, pay more for services, Swedes have decided that it's better for private sector companies and entrepreneurs to deliver those services.
Yes, consider K-12 education as an example. Sweden offers a 100% voucher for parents who choose independent schools. This means the government provides full payment for tuition costs to assist parents wanting their children to be educated at non-government independent schools. And moreover, unlike almost any other country, Sweden's voucher program includes both non-profits and for-profits.
In summary, it's a mistake to characterize Sweden as a socialist or even democratic socialist country. In many ways, it's more market-oriented than other Western countries, including Canada, the US, Australia, and the United Kingdom.
Wow.
While Sweden certainly experimented with much higher levels of government spending, it figured out that such policies don't work. It retreated by pulling back on government spending and restoring fiscal balance. Sweden does have a larger welfare system than many other countries, but it's financed by higher taxes on average Swedes. They have agreed to pay higher taxes in exchange for more government services. This is a compact largely rejected in many other Western countries.
Wow, I found this video really insightful and thought-provoking. And I'm also intrigued by the fact that Sweden relies on innovative private sector for social services. For example, the voucher for education, where parents get to pick an independent school and then the government provides full payment for tuition costs. That's the free education they talk about in some of the videos I've reacted to earlier, right? Wow, this is really impressive. And while Sweden has a high level of government spending, it also has a high degree of economic freedom in other areas such as ability to trade and also ability to start and operate business. This is really, really impressive and thought-provoking. Overall, I think one of the major misconceptions about Sweden's economic system is where people think that the high tax rates are usually paid by the average Swedes. This video made us understand that not just the average Swedes pay those high taxes, even the rich also pay, which is really impressive. Wow. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you found this reaction video helpful in understanding Sweden's economic system. Let me know in the comments what you think about Sweden's approach to economic policy. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Bye guys.